Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to another episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, my guest is Aurelien. You know what? I went over this trying to pronounce this in the English way and the French way. How about you give us an introduction to yourself and pronounce your name properly so I don't butcher this brutally.
No problem, Glenn. So my name is Aurelien Bonin. That's the French pronunciation. I'm from France, and you can call me Aurelien. I was trained as a teacher. I came to Canada with $4,000. Lived in a basement apartment in Toronto at the beginnings. Had 2 bachelors with honors, one in philosophy and one in German studies. I speak 3 languages. And when I came to Canada, I started working for a foundation. The money that allowed for the foundation to work came from real estate investing. The gentleman was a mall developer, quite a successful one. Mm-hmm. I was very inspired by his story. He was a Holocaust survivor and started from nothing. And I was making about $40,000 a year and really wanted to do real estate investing. So I quit smoking, quit drinking to save money. I read The Wealthy Barber, and I started paying myself first. Yeah. And my other motivation was that I wanted freedom. I didn't want to have somebody telling me what to do anymore. I wanted to run my show, and I started educating myself for free. I went to the library, got books. Yeah. And on a regular basis, I started meditating and focusing really on switching my mindset from being an employee to becoming an entrepreneur, where I was to make the decisions, I was to be responsible for those decisions, and that was part of my growth process. Yeah. And part of the lessons of what I read in the books was that you need to invest where there is job growth. So I looked at different markets, identified one that was out of province, went there, met a realtor, we started working together. She helped me grow my portfolio, and
so later on. Whereabouts did you start? What province did you go to start with?
In New Brunswick.
Okay, so you're living in Toronto, you went out to New Brunswick. Okay.
Absolutely. And then there was a gentleman from whom I was buying a few properties, and he mentioned to me mobile home parks and said they were fairly hands-off. It got me curious, and I always liked the US. I was always intrigued by investing in the US. And I started looking south of the border for trailer parks. Once again, I educated myself with Mobile Home University and listened to the podcast by Kevin Bopp.
I've had him on the show.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, no, he's great. I listen to his show, too.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
And and then I looked at states where I would personally like to go visit, where the numbers made sense, but also where I'd like to visit myself. Mm-hmm. And California was a bit too expensive. Florida had hurricanes, which made it a bit difficult for this type of housing, which left me with Texas and Arizona. And I like the state of Arizona, the climate, which is dry.
Yeah, nice dry heat.
Fairly good for mobile homes. And so I started looking down there, and that's where I purchased a park about 2 years ago.
Cool. All right. Got lots to dive in here already. So you went to New Brunswick. Was there sometimes I know even for myself off the start, I was just taking stabs at things. But when you were going to New Brunswick, were you going there for a specific thing? Were you going because it's more landlord friendly? What drove you to New Brunswick?
2 things. one of the factors I always take into consideration is the rental you can get compared to the purchase price per unit.
Okay.
And so that was a big bonus. Secondly, indeed, it is fairly landlord friendly. The eviction process can take as little as 16 days with the involvement of the sheriff. It takes a little longer in practice, but that was another aspect. And thirdly, when I was looking for job growth, I looked at the federal budget of 2012, and I started investing in 2013, and the government was going to create some jobs down there.
Cool. So did you go into, I'm guessing you're in the south then, so you're talking Fredericton, Moncton, or St. John?
Yeah.
Okay.
Moncton. Yeah.
Moncton. Okay. All right. Cool. I have family out from New Brunswick, so I'm really familiar, and I used to work out there, so I'm really.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Pardon?
Where's your family from?
The north, so Bathurst.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know Bathurst.
Yeah. Cool. So then when you go down to the States, you pick a market, you're going for Arizona. What kind of things were you looking for trailer parks? It's a little bit different than multifamily, I know, but what was your criteria?
The key aspects are it's similar to multifamily. You want a good school district. You look also at crime rate. I had some connections and was able to find out from the local police station, which areas they were called in most often, and also so the area was important. And also the type of park, and you really want to buy mobile home parks where most of the homes are tenant owned.
Yeah, or convert them that way. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, because then you're just managing the ground. Then
Yes.
my biggest thing because I've been very interested in mobile homes. So my biggest concern for me personally going into mobile homes is the property management, like because. I guess, did you go and hire a new property manager or just inherit who was there? How did you go about that? That's always my biggest concern because they're living on site, I would assume, right? You have a large enough park for that?
Yes, actually, you're right. We inherited the property management.
Okay.
They came with the property, and they live right next door to there. And they help us with the rent collection, and they take all the phone calls, and then they let us know when things need to be addressed.
Okay, so they're not living right on site then, so you're not providing the housing for them, you're paying them
No.
just the salary. Okay, so then if there's repairs, are they the handyman as well, or do they hire somebody else out to do that?
We have a tenant who does it.
Oh, that's pretty awesome too. I'm guessing you inherited that too, or did you have to find that person?
Yeah, it came with a package.
You got quite the package there. You get the whole thing set up. That's awesome. Because that's always been my biggest thing. I'm like, if I bought one of these things and I got a terrible property management, what do I do? I'm kind of, to start with, to hire somebody, who do you say you lose your property manager? How would you even go about hiring another one? I guess ideally your old one could hire the new one, right? Would probably be the best, I guess.
Well, there are property management companies down there, so you would have to convince them because it's a fairly small park and they usually prefer to manage larger parks. I would call around, the neighboring parks and see if a park owner would be interested in managing that park. I've done that quite a few times when for example, some legislation changes, and I am curious how other mobile home park owners are handling it. I just call around and then figure out that way.
Cool, makes sense. So the park you picked, do you have city water, city utilities, or that's one thing I keep hearing as a repeating theme is taking on some of these yourself might be a bit of extra work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all city utilities, gas, electricity, and water and sewer.
Perfect. Yeah, it's nice to have that out of your head, out of your control. Yeah.
Yeah, and we build them back. So For the electricity, we have a local company called Spectrum that goes to the meters and reads the meters. Same thing for gas and for water, sewage, also for the water. And then for sewage and garbage, we have a bill, one general bill. Like I believe it's about $300 for garbage, and we have 10, so we divide by 30. We have 10 tenants, we divided by 10. It's $30 a month per tenant.
Cool. So for was it Spectrum you mentioned? Is that like just a Phoenix company, or is that sort of like a piece of hardware that can do this?
I believe it's statewide.
Statewide? Okay, and so that's actually pretty intriguing because I have a multifamily that we're converting to put some meters in, but it's very expensive. And if I could have something that even if I had one main meter and then had a way of actually reading it to split it out to the tenants would be one way to solve the problem a lot cheaper than replumbing the whole property.
Have you looked into HUD?
What's it called? Can you repeat that?
HUD.
HUD?
I'll look into it for you, and I'll
Okay.
find it, and I'll let you know. Because I think there is a way where you don't really have to redo the whole plumbing, but in the end, you manage to bill it back to the tenants.
Okay. Actually, the plumbing is the lower thing. It's the electricity that's more important to split up for me to not be paying for that. So do you have other multifamilies or you just do the trailer park so far?
I also have an 8-unit.
Okay.
And a few fourplexes, triplexes. Yeah, that's the extent of it.
Cool. And so are they all in the same area in Arizona? Same sort of spot? You keep them all local?
Only the one mobile home park is in Arizona. The rest is New Brunswick.
Oh, it's all in New Brunswick. Okay. So when you were starting to do your multifamily, the mobile home park down in the States, what kind of financing did you do and where did you find it?
So unfortunately, to qualify with agencies such as Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, you need a green card, which I do not have.
Yeah, me neither.
So there were a few options. You can go to credit unions, but what's very common with smaller products, like smaller mobile home parks, is seller carry. And that's the route we went for. And it was really simple. I mean, I had been looking on LoopNet for real estate agents, and I had identified this real estate agent as the one specializing in smaller parks. So I approached him, and I simply told him our situation. We had so much to invest for the down payment, and he created the deal. He called up investors he knew who had properties in that price range, with that who would carry such a vendor take back, and that's how we got our debt. So we negotiated the terms, 30-year amortization, balloon 10 years, and 7%, and we had to put 20% down only.
That's great though that you found someone that could go craft that for you. So when you were looking to find the matchmaker, like the real estate agent, were you just looking to someone who had a lot of listings, or what were you looking for?
Someone who had a lot of listings, because I knew that meant they had a lot of connections and they were, hardworking and were connected. And that's the route we went. And I don't regret it.
Cool. So whenever you were giving him your criteria, besides like the price and stuff, were you insisting on a certain cap rate, a certain cash flow? What was, you don't have to give me what your numbers were, but what was your focus you were looking for?
Basically, I knew what cap rates to expect in that area, and he would send me the numbers, and I would run the numbers very quickly. And then I knew, if the cap rate was attractive to us or not. And we bought a park that had a few park-owned homes, and like you have to do. It's part of our business plan. It's to sell them to the tenants. And there are new laws now in Arizona where you need to be a dealer to sell homes to tenants. Yeah, and so we need to hire a dealer to do that now.
That sounds like extra pain.
Yes, an extra cost.
Yeah, an extra cost, an extra person getting their hand in the cookie jar. Yeah. You got the property down there, and you've got the guy to figure that all out for you. Are you still looking to get more Are you still looking to get more mobile home parks in Arizona, or is that the end of Arizona for you?
So the plan for Arizona is to so there are certain homes that are pretty old and are going to need a rehab. So we're going to rehab those homes.
Yeah.
And once this is done, the idea is to sell this park to buy a bigger one.
Okay.
Using the 1031 exchange. And there is a maritime connection there because one of the specialists of 1031 exchanges in that area is from Nova Scotia. So he's Canadian and knows.
So you have a good Canadian connection to do 1031 exchanges?
Yes.
You found that they're pretty confident, and they've done this multiple times, this CPA?
Yes. And I've taken some notes from my conversation with them. And in essence, the US has no issues.
Yeah, no.
It's just Canada with some form of withholding tax. And basically, you get that back from what I remember, you get that back when you file your taxes.
Wait, so you're doing a 1031 in the States, and Canada's going to do a tax that they're going to withhold? Or
Canada is going to want to see some money. So we qualify for a 1031 exchange, no matter where we are from, including Canada, if selling US real estate and buying US real estate. We save 25 to 30% capital gains tax. The only restriction for foreign nationals is that the IRS holds 15% in escrow if over 300,000, which is called fiata. We get it back when filing the tax return. We don't need to fill out a full tax return for that.
When you got started in doing these multifamily buildings and the apartment homes, did you start with some mentorship, or how did you figure all this out? Did you do some training, or how did you get there?
So that's a great question. I truly believe that mentorship can allow an investor to avoid costly mistakes. And I also believe that the value of mentorship has to do with when you pay for mentorship, you also commit yourself to your mentor and to your education, which makes sense to me. For me, my mentors, I was extremely motivated, and my mentors were initially the authors of the books I was reading.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, and so dedicated I was. I would take notes, and inside a document called Real Estate Mentors. And so I would have those quotes that would guide me through investing. And also along the way, I qualified. So I told you earlier, I was making $45,000 a year.
Oh, yeah. A month. I don't think you would have quit that job.
A year, sorry. So I qualified for only so many mortgages, two to be exact, with the help of a mortgage broker. And then I hit the wall, like we say in real estate investing. And I told my real estate agent, listen, I'm happy to buy more, but the bank is not going to finance me anymore. And it so happened that in the local community, she knew of an investor, of a lender, a private lender, who used to do first mortgages. So there were a few conditions to invest with him. We had an initial meeting that went very well, and we liked each other from the get-go. And he always wanted to be in first position. So that was one of the parameters.
Safer, yeah.
And he was my first mentor, my first real life mentor. And it created a win-win situation where he helped me train my eye so that I would be able to identify good properties. He always said, you have to first, when you inspect a property, you go to the basement. That's where you evaluate your property first. Run away from cement blocks, but port foundations are better.
Yes.
Avoid flat roofs if you can. Pitch roof are better. So he would help me, and he wanted me to buy a good property because his money was invested, and that helped me because I also wanted to buy good properties for the future of the portfolio, and so that was one mentor. And later on, as I was buying more real estate from a particular individual, that person granted me a seller financing. We did vendor take back.
Vendor take back, yeah.
And also that was something new that I was learning, how to negotiate vendor take backs. And he also became a mentor, so that when I would run into complicated situations, because he was from the area, we would have conversations together, and he would guide me and help me make decisions.
Curious, when you're doing seller financing in Canada, do you use a servicing company? Like whenever I've done it in the States, we're always running it through, like, I never actually pay the guy that I got the money from. I'm always paying this other company, and they handle all the transaction in the middle. Is that something, or did you have like basically right to him? Like it was, I'm just wondering about the connection.
We used a lawyer. The lawyer drafted the documents for the mortgage.
Yep.
As well as did the transaction, and then I pay him directly.
You pay him directly, okay.
Yeah.
That makes things a lot simpler, actually, because like for me, I have to call another company that calls him. It's kind of convoluted, but no, okay, cool. Go ahead.
And so that was my second mentor. And these days, so I moved from Toronto, Ontario to London, Ontario, because my wife is now a professor at Western, and it so happened that through her and a friend of hers, I met my current business mentor. So he's not really a real estate mentor. I really wish I could have a real estate mentor, somebody who's walking the walk and is where I would like to be in 5 years. So I have to say I miss that, but he's a great business mentor in the sense that he has a very successful company here in London. He has in his industry is the number one in Northern America.
If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do so?
I have a website.
Yep.
It's called mindfulinvestor.net.
Okay.
And they can leave me a message that way. Or they can just send me a text message. I don't mind giving my phone number.
Sure.
It's 416-826-2104.
Perfect. I'll add that in the show notes if people wanted to track you down. Maybe they're interested in investing in one of your projects, or just learning some more about these different topics that we tackled. I can't even talk tonight. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.